I've got something a little bit different for you today. This table belongs to a friend of mine and it did have a glass table on the top, but in the bad weather that we've had, it ended up smashing when the parasol went over. So it hasn't got a top anymore. And rather than putting it out for the scrap man or taking it to the tip, I think I'm going to save it. I'm going to use some decking boards to make a nice wooden top, and we'll add 2 troughs either side for either ice and drinks, or you could even plant it with some flowers if you want to as well. So follow along and see how I fix it up. The table itself is in really good condition, obviously minus the glass top, but the glass top would have initially sat inside this metal rim all the way around. It would have rested on the rubber stoppers and the little rubber feet as well, just to hold it in place, but we don't need to worry about that. The wooden top that I'm going to make is going to sit on top of this metal frame. These rubber feet can be removed, revealing a hole that goes through the tubing, and we can use screws to attach it to the frame that way. But before we get to that, let's get the decking boards in place and see what size we need to cut them to. So I've got the boards roughly laid out on the table, and at this point all I'm doing is looking to see what kind of overhang looks nice, and I've figured that roughly 8 centimetres either side should be a nice overhang. So for this table I need to cut the decking to 1.5 metres long. So I can measure that with my tape measure, mark it up with a pencil, and I'll be able to cut those to length with a handsaw. So now I've got all the pieces cut to length and I'm happy with how it's fitting on the table. There's a couple of things I need to think about. First one, how am I going to join them all together? Well, I'm going to use the off-cut pieces that I've cut for the tabletop, and these will act as battens. They need to be cut to length, and I'm also going to rip them so they're a bit narrower. I don't need full wide boards like this. You could leave them this width if you really wanted to skip this step, but I think it's going to be worth it because you can make the most of the material. There's one more thing I need to think about as well, and that's the plastic troughs. These are what's going to be used for either the ice buckets or even planters, and these are going to sit in the middle section. So really, this centre piece can be put to one side, and these planters will drop in the middle. So I've been messing around with the placement a little bit, and what I've decided to do is leave 6mm gaps between the 3 outside pieces. The middle piece will just be determined by the size of these planter boxes, but to make it easier on myself, I've cut a couple of scrap pieces of 6mm thick MDF. So I'll be able to use these as spacers as I go along, attaching the batten to make sure that they're all evenly spaced apart. That should make the job go a lot quicker. So now I've got this board cutting off, I can cut it to length, and these will work great as battens for the tabletop. So I'm going to start from that end, putting 1 screw into each of the boards, work my way down to this end, making sure that I've got an even gap between each one, and get the screws applied to all of the boards, and we should have a solid tabletop. By just adding 1 screw at this point, it'll allow me to still have some movement in the table. Once I'm happy that it's all evened out, I can add a 2nd screw to each of the boards. Now that I've got all the boards attached but only with 1 screw, I can still move it, so I can double check that it's all square. The best way that you can check that it's square is from measuring corner to corner. If from both corners it measures the same measurement, then the top's square. If there's a difference, keep tweaking it until both measurements match up. Then once you're happy that it's all nice and square, you can add an extra screw to each of the boards. Now you'll probably notice that we've got some gaps where these planters are going to be sitting. Of course, there's now an opening where there should be decking boards to finish off the tabletop. So we are going to cut some pieces to fill in there, but we also need some extra battens. So these battens was cut in exactly the same way, then just slightly different lengths. I've got some longer ones, still a bit shorter, but these will go in the middle, and these will help support that centre section. And then I've got 2 other really shorter ones that will go on the ends, and those will support the 2 outer sections, and it'll just stop it all from dropping through, and then we'll be able to get it all fixed in place and flip it over. with the table flipped back over, I went ahead and I cut some shorter sections of the decking just to finish off the top. These pieces will fit through and just fit on the end just to close that little bit of a gap from where the planters actually sit. Unfortunately, due to the spacing, the gaps between the central one does have to be a little bit wider, but overall I don't think it's going to affect the look that much, and at the end of the day it gives you that nice access to either put drinks in or planters, so I think it's worth it having that difference in gap. Fingers crossed the fit. Perfect. Really happy with how the table's looking, but of course I can't forget the hole in the middle just for the parasol. And now the last thing I'm going to do before getting it all sanded and getting the finish applied is I'm going to round over the corners slightly. We just want to get rid of those sharp edges. And to do that, I'll use a jigsaw. So now that I've donned this very fetching painting attire, even got my matching slippers, I can get the tabletop painted. And I'm using just a regular outdoor wood preserver. This is the kind that we'd use on sheds and fences and decking and all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, I've got the tabletop flipped over on the floor and I've got the legs in place. I've made sure to measure and get it all centered so the legs are in the right position. So now I just need to secure it to the top with some screws. So that's the table done. It's definitely saved it from being thrown away and put out for the scrapman. I think it's got kind of a picnic table style to it, but at the end of the day, it would have been waste. The glass tabletop got smashed. What else can you do with it? Make a wooden top for it. And I think these drink holder editions have really made the table stand out. You can of course put some nice potted plants in here, maybe put some vegetables or maybe a little herb garden. That could work really well on a table like this. The parasol can fit nicely in the middle, some chairs around the side, crack a few drinks, and it'll make a lovely summer's evening in the garden. One of the best things about it is these holders still easily lift out. So once you're done with all your drinks, you can just lift out the container, take it away, empty out the liquid, get them cleaned out, put new plants in, whatever you're using them for, and then when you put them back in, it's just a case of dropping them back into place. Nice and simple. I really hope you like this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Would you keep drinks in here? Or would you plant it out and maybe put some herbs in? Let us know in the comments because we'd love to know what you'd use this for. And if you're going to give it a go for yourself, please do let us know. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you click the subscribe button and then click the little bell icon next to it. That way you'll get a notification as soon as you upload a new video. Thank you all for watching. I think I've earned this.